Hey, how you doing? Welcome to another reaction video. We make more money, Gore. I talk like this now. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I don't talk like that. You stupid asshole. You thought I did? Wow, you're dumb. Anyway, so this is the worst video game reviews in internet history. So, was Cuphead a... Because that couldn't pass the tutorial. I'm assuming that's Cuphead. Was that a review? I was just thinking about it. I just actually processed the thumbnail here. Was that even a review? I thought that was like the first 10 minutes of Cuphead, and the first 8 minutes of that video was him like, oh, I can't get up the ledge. What do I do? Help! Oh Lord, I've never touched a controller before. Now, if he was like using like, you know, one hand and like the adaptive controller from Xbox, then I would understand, you know. But I don't think he was. I think this is that guy. I don't know. I don't really keep up with like the. I see the people play these games. I saw the Doom one, Doom 2016. That's why Doom's there in the top right, I assume. Because that one was embarrassing. But I don't know if that was a review. That was just gameplay. So I'm a little confused. I don't know. Anyway, so I guess we'll find out. So shout out to C Shift. This is from them. Link in the description. Go check it out. I just saw this in my suggestions. So I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting. I like that. So let's get to it. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, play. Again, link in the description. Oh, I saw Doom. It just popped up in the. Please do not harass or threaten any of it. I may not agree with it, but I do encourage your good. Yeah, of course. Don't do that. Unless they deserve it, which they don't.
This is Dean Takahashi. Though his name might not initially ring a bell, you're probably more than...
That's Tommy Tellerico. I grew up with Tommy Tellerico on Judgment Day, Reviews on the Run, whatever you want to call it, Electric Playground, Mega 64, Gamer Wars, classic stuff. Classic stuff. So every time I see Tommy Tellerico and everybody else hates him, I'm just like, I just can't hate him. I'm sorry, I can't. I just can't.
Familiar with his, let's say, hit-or-miss contributions to the video game scene. After pursuing his career in journalism through numerous media outlets, Takahashi would eventually play his hand at video game-related writing, releasing 2 books about Microsoft's Xbox and Xbox 360, which both garnered
that name sounds familiar.
Critics,
I'm trying to remember who the fuck he is.
As a notable figure in video game journalism. However, Takahashi's immense praise would soon devolve into heated ridicule, because while he was admittedly great at writing about the history of video game consoles, well, 2 of them at least, actually playing the games themselves
he's the one that played Doom.
Achilles' heel. While he's mostly
no, that was Doom Eternal also.
known for being
that wasn't even Doom 2016. He played both.
Journalist that was so excruciatingly abysmal at Cuphead that he could barely manage to overcome the tutorial.
Oh, it actually hurts me.
That a literal 5-year-old had somehow...
Dude, a 5-year-old and Dark Side Phil could do this.
Wiped the floor with
how?
him. His first disastrous moment in video game journalism came in the form of his review for 2007's Mass Effect, in which he titled his review Mass Defect, and what? Why, you may ask? Because he didn't understand how the game worked, and trust me, that's not a hyperbolic statement. He makes these erroneous claims about combat, such as stating that, when you're shooting at an enemy, an orange box appears on them, and that orange box is the only place that you can inflict damage.
Oh? What?
You can damage enemies by shooting other parts of the body as well.
What?
Then, in this same review, he reveals that it took him 3 hours straight to overcome a particular segment that, by most, is considered a relatively easy part of the game. And
what part? Oh, it has something to do with the Mako.
As the cherry on top of the cake, in the final paragraph of his review, he states that he never actually finished the game because... And I quote, there is no excuse for this. I blame the game developers who put me in this losing decision. This review was, understandably, heavily criticized by most, if not all, players. But thankfully, Takahashi later retracted his review and had a more positive consensus on the game once he figured out how to use skill points. No, that's not a joke. He actually admitted this and apologized for his botched review.
Why did they give him anything to review?
Lesson learned, right? Well, no, because he would later go under fire for describing Warhammer 40,000 as a poor man's Gears of War, but that's a video for another day.
Wait, really? Space Marine?
This is what...
What? The only thing you could say is the suit designs and stuff, and Warhammer came out way before fucking Gears of War ever did, so, like, it's not even a cover-based shooter. Space Marine? I don't remember it being. I know Space Marine 2 definitely isn't. Cover bases just does not work for the Space Marines. It just wouldn't make sense. Yeah, hide behind a corner. Yeah, that's exactly what the Space Marines do.
Some of the most laughably atrocious and downright awful video game reviews in internet history. Enjoy!
Thank you. So wait, are these all from Dean Takahashi? that's crazy. I was expecting that. I thought, God, oh fuck! Don't remind me. They give it like a 3 out of 10. I'm like, what the fuck are you smoking? There's no way that's a 3 out of 10. You're insane. 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 Because it was hard,
so let's kick things off by talking about one of the most notorious names in video game journalism, IGN. There was a point in time when IGN wasn't necessarily respected, but at least tolerated to a degree. But even in their glory days, and I'm being quite charitable when I say that, IGN was no stranger to derision and contempt. Case in point, their notorious review of the 2006 cult classic, Godhand. Godhand is one of the most unabashedly over-the-top and stylish beat-em-ups I've ever played. It's about as subtle as an M16 in a symphony orchestra, and more often than not, cranks the absurdity factor.
I don't know why they haven't ported this. They've technically, didn't they port Killer 7? I want to say they did. Or they updated the PC version or something like that.
To 11. So and I mean that in the best possible way.
I was just thinking, like, around the time that was a... Those were like, I think they both came out the same year. I want to say they were very similar in terms of like weirdness and shit.
Godhand is the
not
apex
gameplay
of the beat 'em up genre, and for some, it's one of the greatest games ever produced. However, Godhand is not a game for everyone. It's unapologetically goofy and nonsensical, to the point where I'd rather tell my girlfriend that I'm watching an adult film because it's easier to explain in the heat of the moment.
It's strong, but it's a pain in the ass. You should try it for a while.
Let's axe it.
Nice one.
Its controls can take a while to acclimate to, and most importantly, it's an incredibly unforgiving and difficult experience through. Keep this in mind, you'll be hearing about difficulty a myriad of times throughout the video. Unfortunately, Godhand's arduous difficulty and steep learning curve
that
was
meme about journalism mode. It's not wrong.
Much for one ill-prepared IGN reviewer named Chris Roper, which consequently led to one of the outlet's most unanimously despised reviews of all time. Chris didn't just harshly review the game.
For some reason, my brain was always thinking it was GameSpot that gave it a 3 out of 10.
Oh, he fucking eviscerated it, doused it in gasoline, sent it careening into an active volcano, and then pissed on any leftover remnants for good measure.
Imagine that was the only thing you ever heard about this game. You're like, 3 out of 10, oh fuck that.
Putting
That'd
this
be
game
so
an easily 3 points out of 10. That is an absolutely horrendous score, especially by IGN's standards, given how lenient most of their reviews tend to be. Seeing a modern IGN review with a score lower than a 6 is like watching a Tarantino movie without gratuitous displays of feet. However, upon examining the review,
someone not saying the N-word,
you begin to uncover a litany of issues and inconsistencies that lead to one glaringly evident conclusion. Chris didn't know how to play Godhand and placed blame on the game for his inadequacies. Hopefully you don't become a little
dark side, Phil.
For your Chris, the whole "it wasn't my client who committed homicide, it was the pistol" excuse isn't exactly the most cogent legal defense. For starters, Chris negatively critiques the combat system and rather erroneously states that it boils down to nothing more than mindless button mashing.
Let me guess, it was hard for you because you did that?
If you've ever played Godhand, you'll know that button mashing, while definitely a factor that comes into play during combat, is far from the only tool in your arsenal to use against enemies.
Godhand.
You have an
I should play it. I really should. They should port it, though.
An array of attacks that you can freely equip whenever you want, with more than a few of them having different use cases. Some of them send enemies flying at speeds of Mach 10, others can break an enemy's defense, and some can propel enemies into the air in order for you to continue a combo. That's not even mentioning the other mechanics, such as the roulette wheel attacks, which essentially serve as cinematic special attacks for you to demolish your enemies.
It gets
so to say
crazier.
that the combat is almost nothing more
I remember watching the fucking, Tizentat, I still don't know how to pronounce his name. That guy. His review is so fucking good at the game.
Pressing the attack button is extremely disingenuous. But don't just take my word for it, because Chris directly contradicts himself in his initial opinion 3 separate times throughout the review. Firstly, he mentions the fact that Godhand allows you to customize and swap out individual moves, which, mind you, is stated immediately before his negative critique of the combat. Thing is, when you swap out moves, the game tells you exactly what those types of moves are used for. So it's not just a matter of mashing the button, waiting for an opportune time.
So you can't say it's button mashing if you're just gonna fucking not use any of the combos at that point.
Complexity and nuance to Godhand's combat. Secondly, he then mentions the roulette wheel attacks, which he describes as nothing more than eye candy. But last time I checked, performing a simple 3-hit combo does a quarter of the damage that an explosive baseball toss does.
Yeah,
Plus, there are other roulette attacks.
You can say that about any fucking super move then, if you're gonna be a dick about it. It's just flashy shit, you know. Yeah, it's not your get out of jail free card. I'm sure not.
For an effect.
Most super abilities are
like the one that sees you delivering a swift kick to the groin and leaving an enemy in a dazed state, and consequently leaving them open for attacks. This one in particular hits a bit too close to home for me. I've fallen victim to so many kicks to the groin in middle school. I wouldn't be surprised if my kids came out cross-eyed. And lastly, he states that the enemies in the game are painfully generic, which I would assume was stated to reinforce his point about the combat being generic. And to
that sperm got laid out. Bro.
And I say, what the fuck are you talking about?
Come out
Sure, in the
sideways.
first level, the enemies aren't exactly unique from a design standpoint, but they certainly don't feel generic to take on in battle. There are 3 different variants of
Did that motherfucker just turn into an orange?
quote, generic enemies here. You got the basic grunts that go down quicker than me after 2 Modelo's. Yes, I'm a lightweight,
yeah,
sue
bro.
me. IGN is the same way, except instead of alcohol, it's any difficulty higher than hey, not too rough. You've got the slightly larger
That's the secret easier difficulty in Doom.
enemies that tend to block more attacks and usually only succumb to the heavy hitting attacks, and then you have the average American wasteland in the year 2056. But on top of that, you'll later go toe-to-toe with enemies who drop bombs that you either avoid or kick in their general direction, erotic women with whips, and hell, that's not even factoring in the boss battles.
Together we are the...
Plus, there are demons
Fucking love the Japanese.
that'll sporadically burst from the corpses of defeated enemies, granting you handy rewards if you can manage to defeat them. So how in the hell could you classify that as generic? But also, speaking of those aforementioned demons, Chris also complains about how these demons serve as nothing more than roadblocks that'll occasionally cause you to throw your controller across the room in a fit of rage. Yeah, that's not true either. Yes, they can
But like, it's so stupid. Like, oh my god, they're so hard. Then stop fucking button mashing,
difficult,
bro.
but there are more than a few
Actually interact with the fucking gameplay mechanics.
instances where you can simply walk past them and advance to the next area. And if you thought Chris was done bitching about game mechanics, then get a load of this. He complains about the fact that health doesn't carry across levels. Okay, I think that's actually a reasonable critique for once. But then he also complains about the fact that you regain full health when you die because there aren't any consequences to dying. You can't make this shit up.
What?
It's also blatantly false, by the way.
Which one the fuck do you want, bro?
Gain less money the more times you die, and as a bonus, if you're hit enough times, your character can actually level down, so it encourages adept gameplay.
Right.
So with all of his critiques in mind, it leads me to believe that Chris didn't know how to play Godhand, didn't pay even a modicum of attention to the tutorial, and while this one is more conjectural, probably didn't even make it past the second stage before calling it quits, and typing up a half-assed review in order to get his paycheck.
Probably.
Needless to say, this review was absolutely incinerated by the gaming community, and many people believe that this very review led to Godhand's average sales figures and the closure of Clover Studio.
Here's a better joke for free. What's green and has wheels? Grass. I lied about the wheels. No.
I wouldn't say that this review single-handedly put Clover Studios 6 feet under, but I wouldn't be surprised if it played somewhat of a role, given that review outlets held a bit more stake in
This is so weird that Clover's made this and Okami in like the span of a year. They're so... No, it might have been the same year. So different. It's not even close to this.
game back in the day. It was such a reviled review that IGN themselves would make an entire video dedicated to defending Godhand, and essentially retracting its original review. But to this day, that 3 out of 10 score lives in infamy as one of IGN's earliest controversies.
Oh, yeah, I made a video about this. I made a parody video about this. Yeah, IGN again. What was his name again? The fucking guy that stole...
Alright, it's time for round 2 of the IGN humiliation ritual.
I'm assuming Alien Isolation will be here, but I'm not going to look ahead. I don't want to.
Because we're not done with these guys just yet.
No.
This is Dead
No,
Cells.
no.
It's a game that I'm admittedly not the most well-informed of. Mainly
Yeah, I'm
because
not
I
really
simply
either.
haven't played it. But
I've
it just
only-
doesn't
I
really
only
look
played
like
maybe
my
like
cup
8 or
of tea
9 hours of
personally,
it.
But maybe I'll take a crack at it someday. So why am I talking about a review of this game when I haven't even played it? Well, it's not because I
You haven't
fundamentally
played it?
disagree
Or
with
they
the
haven't
reviewer's
played either?
consensus. It's more so because the reviewer in question couldn't even muster up an original review to begin with. Oh yeah, that's right. An IGN reviewer committed the sleazy and creatively bankrupt act
Plagiarism.
of plagiarism. See, in 2017, a reviewer at IGN named Philippe
That was 8 years ago? Really? Fuck my life. Really?
Musin, I think that's how you say it, uploaded his
I think
review
it's
of
Philip.
Dead Cells. He ended up scoring the game with an excellent 9 out of 10, and for once, gamers agreed with the score. And for a brief,
That was
fleeting
back when IGN had decimal points. They don't even have .5s anymore. Now they have just straight up 9, 8, 7, 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, like nothing.
moment, IGN wasn't a nuisance in the public eye. So that means everybody sang Kumbaya at the campfire and gave IGN a convivial group hug and solidarity, right? Wrong. Absolutely fucking
Wrong.
not.
Old, old, but go fuck yourself, lying shit.
Not too long after the original review was posted, a channel known as Boomstick Gaming had
We still watch to this day. He still posts videos.
uploaded a video claiming that the aforementioned
I watched
IGN
I watched Boomstick Gaming because of this review.
reviewer had copied his review of the game and then modified some of the wording to make it at least marginally distinct from the original. And well, to say that it bore a few striking similarities to the
It was
original would be a
the
massive understatement.
same structure, same like at exact same moments. Yes.
First, the review kicks things off in a relatively strong fashion. Hell, when I first saw this video, I just figured that maybe there were only a handful of questionable coincidences, but nothing too egregious. However, the further you dive into the review, the more blatantly obvious the similarities become.
The combat system is fast, fluid, responsive, and one of the most rewarding representations of 2D combat of the entire genre.
Fights are fast, fluid, responsive, and hands down one of the most gratifying representations of video game combat I've ever experienced.
Is Philip Musin or Musinex or whatever the fuck his name is? Was that the same? Wait, that was 2018. Okay, thank God. A little 1 year extra. Heck, fuck. Was he also the guy that did the narration too?
Needless to say, audiences were outraged.
That doesn't always happen.
Especially since Boomstick Gaming had a mere fraction of the subscriber base that he does now.
Yeah, it's more
For
now.
reference, his video had received roughly 14,000 views, while IGN's review had already garnered roughly 70,000 views. Shortly after this was discovered, IGN terminated Philippe, redacted the original review, replaced it with a different review.
Did he do it again? I want to say, did he come back and do it again with something else? Not on IGN, but somewhere else.
By another employee, and issued a series of apologies and statements to Boomstick Gaming. Hell, in the revised review, you can still find a statement that references the controversy at the bottom of the page.
That was found to have unacceptable the new review is written by a different critic and it meets our editorial standards. Yeah, I mean it's hard. Like because like how you gonna be able to do complete research on. Like, Boomstick Gaming didn't have, like, tons of viewers. You know what I mean? Like, it's... I don't know.
Page. A little while after this
I don't really blame
disastrous
IGN
took
that
place,
much.
Philippe would return to YouTube and make a half-hearted attempt at clearing his name by stating that the similarities between him and Boomstick Gaming were purely coincidental and unintentional. But you know damn well that the internet just wasn't going to buy that excuse. Now maybe, just maybe, Philippe could have salvaged at least a modicum of his career if his disastrous decision was confined exclusively to Dead Cells. But no, it's quite the opposite.
That's right, it was older reviews.
Not long after this debacle had transpired, it was discovered that Philippe had not only plagiarized work from Boomstick Gaming, but from a myriad of other YouTube channels as well, with two notable examples being Nintendo Wire's Fire Emblem Warriors review and Nintendo Life's FIFA 18 review. This led to IGN reassessing and retroactively deleting every single one of...
Oh, man. He did Switch, Skyrim, Octopath Traveler. The top one, right one doesn't even sound like a review.
His video game reviews. Yet his coverage of Nintendo games and consoles are still left unscathed on the official website. As a final Hail Mary, Philippe would do two things. He would make a post on Reddit admitting his wrongdoing, at least when it came to the Dead Cells
I'm never argue about the legitimacy of this, so I'm not 100% sure if this is actually Philippe or not. Still, it's something to take into account. Okay.
In order to garner some sympathy and forgiveness. However, he made the catastrophic error of posting to Reddit, one of the most unforgiving and terminally online user bases on the web. Not saying that their reactions were not justified, I'm just giving you some context here. So you can imagine just how spiteful and vitriolic some of the responses were. And roughly a year after the incident took place, he would also upload 2 official apologies on his YouTube channel, addressing not just Boomstick Gaming's review, but the other reviews as well. This was also not exactly received in the most generous of fashions. Needless to say, Philippe hasn't had the most successful career in game reviews or as a content creator, and considering that we haven't seen a video from him in roughly 3 years, there's a little like...
Oh, wow, he was still... I mean, he was doing okay with views-wise. That's actually kind of crazy.
Likelihood that we'll ever hear
Ultra Age.
from him.
I remember that game. I remember, fuck. I think it was Switch Up was like hyping that game up.
Yeah.
Wait, was it Switch Up? No, it was the other. Yeah, Switch Up. I think it was Switch Up. Sorry. Hogwarts Legacy. Ooh. I don't know if I know this one. Oh, this is going to be like, I'm not going to review it or something because, what's his name? What's her name? The trans people are bad lady. What's her name? The writer.
Alright, so now we're going to delve into some touchy territory, because we're talking about Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy was, and still is, the definitive Harry Potter game. It has excellent production value, a fantastic soundtrack, an immersive recreation of Hogwarts and the Wizarding World in general. Not to
I wish there was more things to do in Hogwarts, personally. I wish you could actually, like, you know how Bully, the game Bully, you can go to classes and do mini games and stuff, and you can get your things, and whatever. I wish you could do stuff like that. You do go to class, but it's like just to learn an ability and that's it.
Really fun and engaging combat system.
Yeah, I know.
It is, by all accounts, a must-buy for any self-respecting Harry Potter fan, but even if you're not familiar with the source material, I think you'll still get a kick out of this one. However, Hogwarts Legacy was the focal point of controversy for a handful of people, not because any of the content within the game itself, but more so because the creator of the Harry Potter series, J.K. Rowling. Look, I'll be frank with you, I'm not really one to talk about contemporary politics and social topics, so I'll give you the hyper-condensed version. J.K. Rowling expressed her views about a particular group of people. Some responded by boycotting the Harry Potter brand, some staunchly supported her, but most were left unaffected, shrugged their shoulders, and continued on with their day. However, once the announcement for Hogwarts Legacy rolled around, the J.K. Rowling controversy was back in full swing, and now people were getting pigeonholed into one of two positions. Were you team Hogwarts Legacy, or were you team boycott? It was like the Twilight craze was happening all over again. Except I didn't have to choose between a gloomy wolf man dealing with unrequited love, or a pale husk role-playing as a vampire who takes 3 business days to initiate a kiss. But for most, there was a third option. If I want the game, I'll buy it, and if I don't want it, I won't buy it. It was the silent majority.
That's the end for me. If I buy it, I'll buy it and I'll play it. And if you don't like it, you can get kissed my ass. How about that?
Helped propel this game's sales figures to over 30 million copies, making it the highest-selling game of 2023. Now, while
30
most
million
critics
copies is fucking insane.
were largely positive of the game as a whole, there were some that were a bit more critical, and even a small minority of critics who flat out refused to review the game due to the aforementioned controversy. And you know what? I kind of respect that. If you don't want to review it, then you're not obligated to do so, because at least you're not reviewing the game dishonestly. It's a hell of a lot better than what Wired did. Wired gave Hogwarts Legacy an appallingly low 1 out of 10.
What? I have not heard about this.
A 1 out of 10. Now look, you don't have to like Hogwarts Legacy.
Wait, I want to read that. Well, maybe I should wait.
Legacy, hell, you don't even have to like games that are considered landmark titles. But there is no way in hell.
There's no fucking way in hell it's a 1 out of 10. The combat is really solid in that game.
Convince me that a game like Hogwarts Legacy is on the same pedestal as something like E.T. for the Atari 2600 or Bubsy 3.
E.T. is a 5. It's pretty good.
Or
I'm gonna have a 5.
Gingerbread Man.
Or Gingerbread Man. Classic. What the fuck is this piece of shit?
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
The reviewer kicks off this review by not even talking about the game. No, instead she delves into her past a bit and recounts the excitement.
Oh my god. I don't care. Who are you? I'm reading this like, what the fuck is this? Unplug me, bro. Fuck this.
Felt when reading a Harry Potter book for the first time, followed by her stating that she deliberately didn't want to watch anything associated with Hogwarts Legacy, out of fear that she
why the fuck did you review it?
Enjoy it. If this doesn't scream conflict of interest already, then
what? Yeah, what the fuck?
Buckle up, because we're just getting started. She then, without any specific examples, states that the game is lifeless, that the world lacks heart or creativity, while also questioning why the game didn't have the John Williams score from the movies.
What?
The soundtrack is one of the strongest aspects of Hogwarts Legacy, and it didn't even need to leverage the iconic Harry Potter theme in order to achieve that. Would you not consider that a more creative application of music, rather than
I better see the same shit whenever there's a Jurassic Park game, or which I actually just remembered that Jurassic Park game coming out, the Survivor one, and a Star Wars game, and fucking... What else did Joe do? Superman? No, trying to think of other thing. Whatever.
The theme song.
It's late, by the way. I shouldn't be watching.
For some brownie points. Then she begins to broadly reiterate that the game is lifeless, but then goes on to say that the game looks 2 generations behind.
What? No, it does not.
What the fuck are you
Help me say goodbye. I say, dude, whatever.
Talking about? Hogwarts Legacy might not be a Red Dead Redemption 2 or Uncharted 4 in terms of art direction, but it's still a damn good-looking game, all things considered.
Yeah, it looks fucking great.
To say that it's visually unimpressive would be a falsehood of the highest degree. Then she goes on another unrelated tangent about how the Fantastic Beasts movies aren't as well made as the original Harry Potter films, before then brazenly
sure, of course not.
Stating that the game's story is packed with anti-Semitic undertones because...
What?
Because a game that sees you battling powerful wizards, riding on the back of a griffin, and transforming people into chickens just really gets you itching for a spot in the Third Reich. She even goes so far as to say that buying the game indicates that your goal is to cause harm to someone.
Oh, fuck off.
Here I was thinking that some of my college classmates were a bit pretentious. One session with the people undergoing a degree in journalism, and
30 million people are pieces of shit, bro.
Probably become a raging alcoholic. And I mean, I could...
Was that flight?
Would delve deeper into this article if I really wanted to, but it's nothing nothing more than
That's
obnoxious
okay. I don't
virtue
wanna read
signaling
that.
and dishonest critiques of the game. In other
Yikes.
words, very little of this review
Bad.
pertains to the game itself, but is more so centered around the actual controversy of the creator that inspired the game in the first place.
Yeah.
And again, you don't have to review this game if you don't want to, but Wired
The comboing of the spells was really fun again.
With
Like, which is
Hogwarts
funny
Legacy-
because every time I watched the gameplay before this game came out, I'm like, I don't know about this combat. Well, it might be the weakest part. It ended up being the best part of the game.
2 allegedly in development. It's only a matter of time before we get another one of these absurd articles
Oh
to
yeah,
groan at.
for sure. Can't wait for the sequel to the Wired article. A 0 out of 10. It was so lifeless. All right, here we go. Okay, maybe I don't know what this one is. I thought it'd be the IGN one because then they give it like a 7 or some shit. And wait, it was I just want to bring it up because it was didn't they say something like maybe that was the Edge Art magazine because it was like something about like it not feeling like Doom or something, and there's what the fuck was it? Maybe that was the Edge mag. Maybe that was this review. Okay, hold on.
Okay, so to me, one of the most amusing aspects of video
Oh,
game
it's-
reviews is hindsight.
Oh, this is actually just about the original Doom.
What do I mean when I say this? Well, some reviews expertly pinpoint the moment in which a game becomes a one-of-a-kind achievement in game design. Others might review a game in a more critical light, but will go on to sing the game's praises a handful of years later.
Sure.
And sometimes a reviewer is simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like when Alien Resurrection was criticized by 3 different outlets for introducing a control scheme that almost every single third-person and first-person shooter adopts
What the hell is this used to
to
say?
this very day. But in some rare instances, the reviewer could
What a
just
weird
have
thing
a
to
perplexing and
criticize.
unorthodox opinion about a game, regardless of what time period you read the review in. Case in point, the next review on this list, Edge Magazine's laughable review of Doom. Doom is arguably one of the most
So the
pivotal
original Doom. Okay, all
and
right.
influential shooters of all time. And
So this is the original. Because does Edge magazine even exist anymore? Actually, I have no idea. Yeah, no, it does. It's been around since 1993.
while it wasn't the first FPS on the market, it was the one that almost single-handedly popularized the
Turn the
genre.
Castle
Now, while Doom was
Wolfenstein
garnering widespread acclaim from
Sure,
critics
something
and
else.
general audiences alike, there was one particular review that stood out like a sore thumb, mainly because of how niche and perplexing its main critiques were. Firstly, the reviewer kicks things off by actually praising Doom, more specifically in its technical department. Sure,
Yeah.
Doom might seem a bit antiquated in terms of its overall
it still
visuals,
looks
but for
great.
the time, it was pushing the boundaries of PCs
I'm
across
about to say this. I still love the look of
the
Doom.
market, and arguably still
That's
holds
why.
up
That's why so many games still go for like the old school, like as like they call them boomer shooters. I love it.
really well to this day. The reviewer
So
expresses that Edge magazine won't, and I quote, mindlessly praise Doom beyond its worth, in such a needlessly condescending tone, as if Doom was nothing more than the feeble peasant struggling underneath Edge magazine's shoe. But then the reviewer becomes even more
When did this review come out? If this is like worst video game reviews in internet history,
unbearable,
Like-
as the reviewer describes minor nitpicks as
this
if they
was just in the
single-handedly
magazine
hindered his
itself.
enjoyment of the game. He criticizes the fact that you can't look up and down, and get this, also states that the game is too repetitive. Why?
sorry, I need a second.
Because all you do in Doom, a first-person shooter, is shoot and kill enemies. Firstly, this is a blatantly false statement. as
No,
you
yeah,
actually
you also look for things and stuff.
spend a
explore.
good bulk of the game not just shooting enemies, but also scrounging the area for keys,
Mm-hmm.
finding hidden locations, managing your health, your armor, your ammunition.
You know that thing that people criticize the newer Doom games for, even though they were always in the original games. Dark Side Phil.
Not to mention the handful of power-ups that you can obtain and
The
utilize.
fuck, I'm like doing puzzles and like figuring out where the things are and collecting things. This isn't Doom. I'm like, fuck you. God
to your
damn it.
advantage. And secondly, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's a first-person shooter. Shooting is the fundamental bread and butter of the gameplay. That's like criticizing.
It's also a first-person shooter from the early 90s. That's like giving Mario shit because I do dumb, but
the gameplay loop of Super Mario Brothers because you spend
what'd I say?
the bulk of your time running and jumping, and you can't steal a car, pick up Toadette, and then put a cap in her after paying top dollar for her pleasantries.
Well, you just showed you could.
Then, later on down the line, he, for some inexplicable reason, states that the lighting in particular is scary, but the so-called limited number of enemies is an impediment to the game's potential, because it should have tapped more into the horror
Oh, you should play Doom the Dark Ages then.
aspect. Because when I play Doom, I don't play it for the sake of massacring an entire militia's worth of demons. I do it so I can shriek in terror at a bulging pink looking testicle with teeth, or
I will say, when I was a kid, I was scared of Doom. I'm not gonna lie, I was a pussy.
the aftermath of consuming anything from Taco Bell. Already, this is an obscenely baffling and asinine series of critiques that just make the review feel like it's intentionally going against the grain for the sake of downplaying the game's success. Trust me though, because there's a reason as to why the reviewer feels this way. Because the review culminates in one of the most notorious closing remarks in the history of video game journalism.
Okay, over here.
If only you could talk to the monsters. Oh, well
What? I've never heard that before. Have I never heard of this? If only you could talk to these creatures, then perhaps you could try and make friends with them. Form alliances. Now, that would be interesting. Go play fucking Pokemon, bro. What the fuck?
Oh, well, I don't know. Did you ask Doom Guy what he thinks? Maybe he negotiated a peace treaty, but it didn't work out. Maybe he's a selective mute. Or I don't know, maybe it's because that's not how you play the fucking game. Hilariously, this isn't the only absurd
Also, it's fucking stupid. Don't ever say that shit again, you dumb fucker.
critique in a review from Edge
God
Magazine,
damn.
as they gave Grand Theft Auto 3 an 8 out of 10, which in isolation is a pretty damn good score, albeit a bit controversial given how monumental of a title that game was. The problem? They
Now I could see you giving 8. Back in the day, I don't know, man.
ticked points off of the very game controversial given how monumental of a title that game was. The problem? They ticked points off of the very game that revolutionized the modern open world genre for, quote, a lack of freedom. All in all, Edge Magazine's Doom review is a catastrophic misunderstanding of what the
Fucking hell.
game is all about, and it just seems like an aggravating
Jesus
series of
Christ.
nitpicks in order to come off as a snide
It's fucking
contrarian.
wild.
Thankfully, Edge Magazine has essentially taken this review behind the shed, given it the old Yeller treatment, and now attempts to live in an alternate reality where it never existed, as they eventually went on to rank Doom as one of the top 10 video games of all time.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Elden Ring. All right, fine, whatever. I feel like Elden Ring's too new. I know that's stupid to say. Breath of the Wild is number 1. I don't know about that either. Halo being up there is nice. Half-Life 2, okay. Portal. Everybody loves putting Portal in there. I think Portal 2 is better personally. Yeah, like that's just me. Portal 1 was great. It's great. It's great. It's a great game. I'm not gonna fucking shit on that at all. I'd give that like a 9 out of 10. But I think 2 is better personally. Resident Evil 4, yeah, that's not surprising. Elden Ring, yeah, like I said, Doom's nice. I don't really have a problem with anything else here. It's Dark Souls. I get it. I can't really shit on Dark Souls. I get it.
This is the internet, and the iconic phrase, if only you could talk to the monsters, is still a consistent source of mockery to this very
Oh,
day.
you can talk to monsters. Oh, yes, this one I know. I watched a video that talked about this one. They treated it like way too seriously or some shit.
Okay, so this next review actually has a bit of a personal connection to me, believe it or not.
Oh.
So back in the not-so-distant year of 2020, aka the year where you couldn't cough in public without nearby pedestrians staring at you like they wanted to hang you in a nearby oak tree, I uploaded a video about a remake
Well, they
of
always look like that for me.
my favorite platformers of all time, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle
'cause
for
I'm
Bikini
usually
Bottom.
naked, though.
That video has aged about as well as curdled milk in the scorching Sahara Desert, but it marks a pivotal point in my channel as it was the very first video that I ever uploaded. In that particular review, I actually critique a couple of other reviews of the same game from different media outlets, and by critique, I mean that I hurl expletives like my life depends on it, while having a vocal...
So wait, is this the same person I actually watched? Because he's talking about that video like, maybe not? No, I don't think it is. Okay. No, that was a different video. I can't remember. I vaguely remember it being a British guy doing the voiceover.
delivery that's nothing short of cringe-inducing. You're gonna be doing 3 things most of the time.
okay.
Breaking shit, bouncing on shit, and buying shit. But if you're GameSpot, there's actually a 4th thing, and that's being shit at platformers. I was going through a video game donkey phase at the time. I don't know why
not bad.
mimicking his voice felt like a smart choice. In hindsight, it sounded like I touched myself every night to the tune of the Godfather soundtrack. I was fucking pumped. In that review, I talk about 2 reviews, one from IGN and the other from GameSpot. Now, the IGN review does have plenty of flaws, sure, but the GameSpot review takes the cake as one of the all-time worst reviews that I have ever seen for a video game.
Okay.
Why? Simple. The reviewer was awful at the game and gave it a low score to give himself a
DSP.
confidence boost. At least that's what I think.
God, I would love if someone got DSP to review games. Like a GameSpot or IGN. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Remember how earlier I said that difficulty plays a factor in video game review scores?
Yeah.
Well, if IGN is the kid that needs a push every time he wants to ride his bike, GameSpot is the middle-aged coward who still uses training wheels to ride a tricycle.
Oh,
For
shit.
some reason, GameSpot in particular tends to house reviewers that couldn't complete a moderately difficult game if their life depended on it.
This game
They
wasn't
gave the Crash
hard.
Bandicoot Insane Trilogy a
I actually
6
stopped playing this game again because it was so easy. I was just like, I felt like I was doing nothing, personally. No offense. It's a fun game, but I felt like I was doing nothing. Like, I was just walking. I might as well be walking, doing nothing. I don't know. I played like a few hours. I'm like, I think I got it now. It's fine. I played this when I was a kid. I really liked it as a kid. I'm good now.
While only getting roughly halfway through each
6 out of 10 for Crash Bandicoot trilogy is fucking insane.
games. They gave Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze a 6, citing the game's unimaginative level design, which you know
Dude, I just finished Returns, and it's great. I didn't have that much harder time.
damn well is just a covert
I know Tropical Freeze is harder.
saying that the game is too difficult. And look, I'm no savant of Tropical Freeze. I'll admit that it's a pretty tough game, but there is no way in hell that you're gonna tell me that one of this game's downfalls is its level design. Oh, and let's not even get started on that new Super Mario Bros. Review.
New Super Mario Bros. Wii is a tough game.
And, case in point, the review of Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which GameSpot awarded a 2 out of 10. Just this score
What?
alone was enough for die-hard fans of the original game to trash on this review in unison, but I'll tell you, the score itself is the least embarrassing quality of the review. Right from the get-go, the reviewer opens by recounting a puzzle that takes place in the Mermalayer. If you've never played this game, basically, in order to obtain the golden spatula, you have to help guide this boulder through a Rube Goldberg-esque device, and while it's not exactly a cakewalk, you can probably successfully get this spatula on your first or second attempt. For the GameSpot reviewer, however, he describes this puzzle as if it's akin to getting caught in a saw trap, where you have to solve the cure for cancer with nothing but a janky $3 calculator and Breaking Bad Season 2 on Blu-ray. He specifically points out a segment of the puzzle where you have
Hey, that was a good season.
to stand on a switch while using your bowling ball technique to hit a button. However, if you step off of the switch, the gate that reveals the button will immediately shut. This is arguably one of the
Okay, then just like he did it there. So.
more rudimentary steps to the puzzle. But
I vaguely remember this from the other video I watched. I forgot what it was called.
the GameSpot reviewer, this was his kryptonite for some reason, as he slides off of the switch while executing the bowling
Then
move,
fucking
thus
started off the button.
preventing the ball from colliding with the
Yeah,
button.
you got
Now,
it.
using your cognitive capabilities for a moment,
You start swinging your fucking little hand off the button.
let me ask you, what do you do in this instance? If you said,
did it.
step towards the back of the switch so that you don't slip off of it while using the bowling ball, congratulations, you're at least ranked in the mildly competent video games tier. It's right above kindergartner,
me
roughly
smart.
3 tiers above GameSpot journalist. Yes, the
Oh.
reviewer repeatedly steps on the exact same spot on the switch, tosses
Oh my
the
god.
bowling ball from the exact same angle,
Dude, you're getting closer off the
and
fucking
erroneously
thing.
believes that the game is at fault. And this is just the opening segment of the review. He later goes on to state that golden spatulas, this game's equivalent to Power Stars, for reference, are either freely bestowed upon you for little to no work at all, or are obscured by bad camera angles and, get this, unexplained systems that you're somehow expected to know. He doesn't elaborate
What?
on this, but if I had to take a stab in the
Yeah,
dark,
please explain, because I don't remember. I forgot how good this remake looked.
I'd say that he knowingly avoided the tutorial signs peppered throughout the first level in order to churn out the review as quickly as possible, and labeled the game as confusing because he deliberately ignored the resources that the game was trying to give him. That's like complaining about a restaurant lacking vegan options when the signage on the front door, as well as the menu and interior, explicitly inform you that you're dining at a steakhouse. And right after that, he immediately self-reports by stating that the online guides helped assist him throughout the game. Look, buddy, if you need
Online guides for a fucking SpongeBob game. Holy shit. Okay, alright, fine. For like hidden collectibles, fine. All right, whatever.
Guides to get past the basic levels
But
of
yeah.
a SpongeBob game, then you'll need a whole fucking support group and years of extensive counseling before whittling the Soldier of Godric down to half health. And he's a tutorial boss.
He's the beginning boss.
And he complains about the platforming being at too
I played a little
unfair.
bit of
And look, if we're talking
Dark
about the
Souls
SpongeBob
and
Dream
all the
level,
other
maybe
ones.
you'd have a half-decent argument. That level's a bigger pain in the ass than the aftermath of insulting Vlad the Impaler during his prime. But this guy's referring to
Oh,
instances
no.
in which enemies are placed on platforms that you're about to land on, which isn't exactly a rarity in platformers.
No,
Plus,
it's
it's not
not.
like the enemies are composed of
Fucking Crash Bandicoot had that.
complex, multi-layered artificial
I guess that's why I gave it a 6 out of 10.
intelligence that detects your every move 3 months in advance. They unintentionally warn you when they see you and when they're about to strike. It's not rocket science. Then he complains about the general gameplay and dislikes the fact that you can't dodge enemies in the heat of battle or switch characters on the fly.
Sorry, it's not Devil May Cry, bro. What the
Stop,
fuck?
it's not like dodging is a popular staple of 3D platformers. Most of the time, it largely consists of running, jumping, and maybe getting a dedicated attack button. And secondly, something that the reviewer doesn't recognize is that the game wasn't designed for characters to be switched at any given moment. A majority of the time, you'll be playing as SpongeBob, with roughly 25% of that time dedicated to playing as either Sandy or Patrick. Mind you, each of these characters have abilities that wildly vary from one another, meaning that in some instances, it would be damn near impossible, or just too easy, for one character to effectively explore an area.
Right.
And it gets even worse, because he complains that you have to trudge all the way back to the bus stop as if
I like you could tell Sea Shaft is really passionate about this one. He already said he was, but it's like you can tell.
Far-flung and sparse
These motherfuckers are wrong.
The game literally provides you with these in a way that doesn't...
I know it's been a few years, but I'm gonna tell them how fucking wrong they are still.
to force you to backtrack. That's not even mentioning the contradictions. He complains about the game warping you to the nearest checkpoint whenever you die, and then complains about the difficulty being too excruciating. But then in the next paragraph, he talks about how the boss battles were a highlight of the game because they forced him to snap out of autopilot mode and actually pay attention.
How are you in autopilot mode if you're getting your ass like, it doesn't make any sense.
If you were playing the game on autopilot mode, then the implication is that
probably
the
why
game
you're
is
dying all
really
the time.
simple and a breeze to get through.
Yeah, exactly.
You mean to tell me that you were gliding
I was playing Elden Ring on autopilot mode, bro.
this game hassle-free
I was playing Ninja Gaiden on fucking autopilot, bro. I'm just that good.
while getting mollywopped by basic enemy AI and short-circuiting your brain while trying to toss a bowling ball at a button that's less than 5 feet away. Okay, sure, get on your high horse. I'm sure your wall is flooded with participatory blue ribbons and handwritten messages
Dude,
that
this is pissing me off.
that you tried your hardest. Needless to say, this review was loathed and mocked by players all across the gaming spectrum. Thankfully, the harsh score didn't impact the game too negatively, as it sold over 1 million copies and was followed up by a spiritual successor, SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake.
Sure, it wasn't great. My prediction on the last one might be Death Stranding, I think, maybe? Because that one got really shit on, right? From, oh, maybe it was Last of Us, Part 2. I want to say Death Stranding got shit on by, for IGN, I think. I'm trying to think what it would be. I'm trying to think what was in the thumbnail now. I can't remember. Ah, whatever. What is it? Ryan McAffrey come through.
And lastly, we're taking
Dude, I gotta say, Ryan McCaffrey's the one on the all the way to the left. I gotta say, it really annoyed me when Ryan McCaffrey kind of took credit for when they announced that the Alien Isolation sequel is happening. He didn't take credit, but he was just like, "Well, I guess my review didn't ruin chances of a sequel." I'm like, it's been 11 years, bro. Like, it's like, what are you saying? If it sold better, we would have got more, and maybe it would have sold better if the IGN review wasn't so shit.
Yeah, but IGN one more time and looking at their now infamous review of Alien Isolation.
Crazy.
So fun fact about me, my all-time favorite horror movie has to go to 1979's Alien. It is a masterclass of horror and science
Good fucking choice.
fiction, has one of the best alien designs in cinematic history, has a superlative sense of tension and dread, and some
Are you saying the Mars Attacks aliens aren't your favorite?
of cinema's most strikingly gorgeous cinematography, which I find kind of funny because this is the same movie where you see a poor crew member succumb to the 5-point palm exploding heart technique, courtesy of the xenomorph erupting from his chest cavity. But what I'm trying to say is that this film is a masterpiece from beginning to end, and its success would naturally lead to sequels, merchandise, and most importantly in the context of this video, video games. For years, however, the Alien series seemed to get the short end of the stick when it came to proper video game releases.
I don't really agree. There's been some really good Alien games out there. Like, I really like the Alien vs. Predator games. I really enjoy the PS1 games from what I played. I remember, I think it was Resurrection that was, like, really scary. That was the one that had the dual analog stick controls. Of course, that Alien Isolation's great, but we're not talking about that yet. What else? I know there's another one I'm forgetting that's pretty good. All right, maybe that's it. All right, maybe that's it.
Albeit with a few solid exceptions.
Yeah,
however, all of that would eventually change when 2014 came around and blessed the world with what many fans consider to be the pinnacle of Alien video games, Alien Isolation. Jesus Christ, this game is quite possibly one of the most tense, foreboding, and nerve-wracking experiences.
I would have finished this game myself if there was a better checkpoint system. I hate having to go back all the way to the last time you put one of those card things in the save thing. I really hate it.
First time
I'm okay with a game being hard. I don't mind that at all. It's just like, I don't have to repeat shit.
I ended up with a bigger lump in my trousers than the time 16-year-old me cracked open an issue of Sports Illustrated. Plot twist, I shit myself both times. Now, despite the immense praise that Isolation received, there were 2 video game outlets that gave the game less than glowing praise. And you already know damn well it was IGN and GameSpot that were getting pelted with backlash. In a miraculous turn of events, however, it was IGN that came out on top as the more despised of the two. Why is this? Well, because the reviewer gave the game a 5.9 out of 10. This was back when IGN was awarding scores with arbitrary decimal numbers for some reason. Yeah, removing that was probably...
I'm okay with getting rid of the 0.8s and 6s. I hate that they got rid of the 0.5s. I don't understand why. we got rid of those.
One of the better decisions they could have made aside from firing a plagiarist. Now, the first half of the review is largely positive, praising the game's ominous atmosphere, the faithfulness to the source material, and of course the highly advanced and terrifyingly unpredictable AI of the Xenomorph. Well, to an extent. More on that a little later.
Yeah.
So what happened? Well, for starters, he makes a peculiar nitpick about the game's pacing, stating that it takes a bit longer than expected for the alien to show up and cause trouble.
Takes about, what, 2 hours, I would say?
He does follow this up by stating that it didn't alter his overall opinion, because the game needs time to build up characters, setting, you get the gist. But in a way, that's kind of a perfect introduction to an alien game, considering that the movie progresses in a largely homogeneous fashion. You set up the film, get to know the characters, and then you eventually toss in the Xenomorph to integrate some tension. It's a small nitpick, I know, but it's something I wanted to point out. I'll let it slide for now. Then the reviewer continues to hammer on the praises, stating that the game hits its apex once the Xenomorph comes into the picture. He talks about the incredible sound design, the intense hide-and-seek gameplay with the Xenomorph, the list goes on. Okay, now we're talking. But then,
Now we're talking.
out of the blue, the review begins to shift towards a more critical and sour tone, as the reviewer
Oh, because his name's Sue Shift.
makes a fairly harsh analogy to the campaign structure by likening it to the doomed ship that the game takes place on. Firstly, he talks about the middle section of the game where you're forced into defending yourself against androids known as Working Joes,
Yeah.
as opposed to scurrying away
You
from
always
the
know a
Xenomorphs.
Working
now,
Joe.
honestly, I have to disagree with this point,
Yeah, I like the
because I
Working
actually
Joes.
found the Working Joes to be disturbing and unsettling
Oh, yeah, they're very
in
disturbing.
their own right. Sure,
And it's also nice to change up. If it was just the alien, it would have got tiring, for sure. So it's nice
far
that there's
less
other
resilient
things.
than the almighty Xenomorph, but it's not like they're pushovers. The reviewer
No,
then
no.
complains about the game trying to be a first-person shooter when it's not. The fact of the matter is that you're given weapons that, for the most part, affect the Xenomorph about as much as a flirtatious smack.
Yeah, the flamethrower is the only thing that's like really works with Xeno.
Except instead of ending with a kiss on the cheek or a one-night stand, you're met with head trauma that somehow surpasses the destructive force of a
How come nobody
migraine.
ever smacks him in the face? You know, like roll up a newspaper. Bad.
If you weren't able to
Bad
use those
Xenomorph.
weapons on enemies that
Go
could
on,
actually be negatively impacted, I'd argue that, with the exception of the flamethrower, the inclusion of weapons would be asinine and completely fruitless. However, as the review continues, you begin to notice some questionable critiques, to say the least. For example, he notes that the fear he experienced quickly turned into frustration after the Xenomorph discovered him while he was stealthily hidden away in an air duct. Okay, sure,
Well,
I'll give you that. However,
sure.
while watching the footage, you can clearly
Yeah,
see
he's
that the
using his-
reviewer has
yep.
his motion detector enabled,
maybe he
which,
just
if you
didn't
didn't know,
realize it.
emits a sound
It
that
makes a beep noise when there's something near. It makes a louder beep noise when it gets closer, too. You see the motherfucker. Why do you have to have the thing out anyway? It's right there. You can't
can
fucking...
actually attract
Big,
the
shiny fucking black guy?
Xenomorph
You know what I mean.
if it's nearby, unveiling that the reviewer was complaining over an issue that he himself was the sole cause of. Oh, and remember earlier when he was praising how unpredictable and spine-tingling the
Say it,
Xenomorph
bitch,
was?
what's up?
Throw that out the goddamn window, because the reviewer decides that the difficulty of contending with the Xenomorph is just too daunting and difficult. And to that I say, have you ever seen Alien? The point of isolation is that it essentially grants the player the opposite of a power fantasy, and lets you quake in the boots of
You're
someone
not Doom guy in this, that's for sure.
trying to escape the clutches of an apex
Even though Doomslayer fighting a horde of xenomorphs would be fucking so sick.
otherworldly predator. It emphasizes the survival aspect of a survival horror game, and damn near perfectly encapsulates the terror of the first movie to a T. The Xenomorph is supposed to be this daunting and damn near indestructible force of nature. Hell, in the final verdict, he actually deducts points due to how difficult and adept the Xenomorph AI is at tracking down the player. And look, I get it. Kirby's Dream Land, this game is not. It's a brutally, unflinchingly brutal, intense experience throughout. But the overwhelming difficulty just works so flawlessly because it's an alien game. If this anemic, gangly-armed extraterrestrial bulldog wasn't intimidating in the slightest, the game wouldn't be nearly as compelling as it is. What I also
Go
find...
play Aliens Colonial Marines, which we got literally a year earlier. Isn't that crazy? Because that game looks like ass, plays like ass, is ass. It's entirely ass. It's awful. And then a year later, we got a great alien, a great alien game.
so odd about this review
Completely
is that
different,
early on he
but-
mentioned that the game is a substantial improvement over the notoriously flawed Aliens Colonial Marines.
Would they give that 5 hours?
A game
I mean,
that,
5 out of 10.
that, by virtue of a typo in the game's code, caused xenomorphs to exhibit about as much intimidation and lethality as
That's crazy. Someone could went into the PC code, actually fixed that, and it actually was much better.
me in a vibrant pink jumpsuit with a single-shot Nerf gun.
Gearbox just didn't give a shit. Gearbox is, oh man, Just make Borderlands games. That's all you're good at.
Doesn't help that I'm roughly 5'4" to 5'6", depending on whether or not I'm using my tiptoes or wearing boots. So in that case, why did
And Halo ports. That's it.
IGN give
Or Halo port. They did Halo 1.
Colonial
I don't think they did 2.
While Isolation was given a 5.9. There is no way on God's green earth.
They didn't give it a 5. I was right. So it's a massive improvement. Not even a full point better.
You can convince me that Alien Isolation, arguably one of the greatest horror games ever conceived, is only marginally better than this absolute clusterfuck. All in all, this review sent shockwaves through the community, and some people even reported that they initially refrained from playing Isolation because of this review.
That's
only
the
to
problem.
become pleasantly surprised at just how incredible the game truly was when they finally got their hands on it. Thankfully, Alien Isolation has received nothing but immense praise over the years, with many deeming it as one of the greatest survival horror games ever made, and some even referring to it as one of the greatest video games ever made at point blank period. In October of 2024, it was announced that the game would finally be receiving a long-awaited sequel, and it's only a matter of time before we get to screech down the hallways of a doomed space vessel while scrambling to outrun a xenomorph once more. Hopefully the game outlets are able to step up their game the second time around. Let's check out that game.
Ryan McAffrey needs to review it.
I mean, yeah, it's flawed, but surely it's a bit more reasonable and fair in its critiques.
The game is devoted to door opening, lever pulling, and walking. So very much walking and backtracking. So many old and predictable video game cliches.
Alright, I'm fucking done.
Yep. The stealth game where you have to move past the xenomorph has a lot of walking? Say what? Alright, that was a good video. Shoutouts. Oh my god. Welcome to shoutouts to C Shift. I'm about to see my ass in the bed. I'm gonna shift myself into the dream world. I'm tired, but that was a good video. That was a really good video. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Some of those are bad. I didn't know anything about the fucking Doom one. I really did. I thought when it said Doom, when I passed by, I was like, oh, the Doom 2016 one, of course. Hogwarts Legacy, I didn't know about that one either. I knew there was a controversy. I didn't know there was someone that just gave it a 1 out of 10 without even reviewing the game, really. That's not a review for the game. Dead Cells I knew about. Godhand I knew about. That one I knew about, but I actually forgot some of the details. Of course, I knew about that one. So it was still fun to watch. So there you go. That's it. Shoutouts to C Shift again. That was a great video. Oh, God. There you go. That's it. That's your little gift. Go check out C Shift. Link in the description. Go subscribe. There you go. That's a bye.